Do you ever catch yourself saying, I always mess this up? Or this is just my luck? What if I told you that wasn't just a random thought, but a spell that you casted over your own life? In this video, we're breaking down the power of language and how your words shape your reality, and how to start speaking from your own power. Words are frequency. They carry vibration. Literally, they're sound waves. Ancient and indigenous cultures considered language to be sacred. You look at the practices like praying or chanting. It's something that they revered a lot within their own culture. When you speak, it has an energetic effect, externally and internally. Externally in how the universe responds to what you are saying, what you are creating, what spells are you using, and internally as your body responds, and also how it's being programmed into your subconscious mind. One example I'd like to share is we can say I'm broke or I'm financially rebuilding. Both of these are expressing towards the same situation. However, they carry completely different weight and a completely different reality. When I'm broke, I define that vibration. I'm here. This is what it is, right? I'm in that vibration. Whereas when I say I'm rebuilding towards financial stability, I'm aligning with faith and I'm creating a situation where I'm looking forward to something. I'm creating something. I'm not defining it. And in many circumstances, we do this. We say something without really giving it much thought. We just say it and the universe responds, and it responds to what we say. So I'm giving you a friendly invitation to really ponder when you say something. Like, what am I really saying here? And what's the subconscious, just spitting out? Creating a little bit of space to observe, and then being able to choose what you want to say, what you want to create. It's a fun little practice to start to implement into your day-to-day life. Now let's go a little bit deeper with this and understand that the inner dialogue creates the inner reality, which eventually creates the outer reality. And as I shared before, sometimes we say things without thinking. But if we just take a step back, we understand that words actually stem from thoughts. So these are the thoughts that have been living in our mind and have taken up space and eventually seeped into our subconscious mind. So when we blurt things out, it's not coming from nowhere. These thoughts are already existing in our own mind. So it's not just about what you say out loud. It's about what you're thinking. So as we bring the attention to the thoughts are just words that are internal, right? So once we start to really connect with the thoughts, we start to see what we're saying to ourselves. What's the relationship that we have with ourselves? Are we being really tough when we make a mistake? Are we beating ourselves up constantly? These are things that we have to start to observe. Well, you don't have to, right? You get to choose if you'd like to observe. But it's just such a powerful thing to really start to understand. In one course that I was taking, we had a practice called the wake-up call. And the practice was to set an alarm clock every hour on the hour. And when it rings, to ask myself, right? Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? What am I thinking? And in this practice, at first I met it with resistance because I thought it was going to be just annoying, right? When I'm in flow, if I get an alarm and I have to drop everything and start to ask these self-reflective questions, it's going to take me out of my workflow. However, it served as such a powerful teacher because I really got to understand where my mind was constantly, right? On a subconscious level, right? Because when I'm in work or I'm in flow, whatever, I'm not so focused on my thoughts. But when I had this constant reminder each hour to check in, it's like, ooh, okay, yeah, I have some weeds. There are some weeds in my mind that require some attention and that I choose to pull and start to replace it with the thoughts that I choose that I want to have. And I'd like to share a personal experience that I had that really just showed me the power of thoughts and words. And I was in a ceremony and it was cold. It was extremely cold that evening. And in this portion of the ceremony, I was shaking uncontrollably. It was very uncomfortable how cold I felt. And I just remember, I kept saying, I'm cold, and I kept shivering. And I had this beautiful moment and realization where I was able to create a little bit of space from that thought and those words internally and start to understand and say, and kind of oscillate and go back between two different thought forms. One, I started to understand, okay, it's cold. That's a fact, it's cold. And when I shifted to it's cold, my body stopped shivering. And then when I went back to I'm cold, my body started shivering. So this was extremely powerful for me to understand, like, wow, okay, my thoughts are really powerful. And it's affecting my body, my reaction, my response, and the whole experience. When I'm cold, I'm having just a not good time. It's not very fun. I'm really cold. I'm shivering. It's becoming challenging to go into my process with the medicine. And then when it's cold, it's like, whoa, I don't feel the sensation of being cold anymore. I'm not shivering. It's just like I'm from the outside looking in. And really understanding the power of like that reframe and those two thought forms and how I respond and how the whole situation morphed around those thoughts, it really got me into an introspective space where I started to connect it with problems. When I define something as a problem, there's like a heavy energy in that it brings more problems. However, when I reframe it and see it's like, okay, well, there's a potential solution here. What's the solution? It's like the same situation, the same experience, seen through two different lenses creates two different experiences. Because when I'm focused on like, okay, there's something here, what's the solution? As opposed to like, oh man, look at this problem. It's like, okay, solutions, I'm open, I'm observing, I'm seeing, I'm finding all the ways to be able to resolve this. And when it's a problem, I'm just seeing all the ways how I can't, why it's a problem and why it can't be solved. So it was a really powerful experience, and this kind of helped me understand the power of words and thoughts. I just want to share a little tool that's been helpful for me as well. It's simple. You catch the phrase, you pause, create a little bit of space, and you reframe. A good example I like to use is the example of I'm bad at relationships. Okay, caught the phrase and the pause. What's another way I can express this? Every day I'm learning to communicate better. So it's taking a negative situation, a negative vibration and words and a definition. I'm bad at relationships. I'm defining that I'm just bad at all relationships. Shifting it to I'm learning how to communicate better each and every single day. So again, it's towards the same situation expressed in two different ways, carrying two different energies and creating two different realities. So one of my favorite ways to visualize and understand this is understanding that every word is a seed. Indigenous wisdom says speak with intention or don't speak at all. This message carries a lot of weight for me because I've been in situations where people just speak just to speak, right? And say a lot of things, and the message gets diluted in a plethora of words and directions and everything. So I really value and appreciate when someone is clear with their intention of their words and direct to what they're looking to express. Of course, it's great to understand a story and the little details, right? But with intention, right? With clarity. And also just to remember that words don't just describe reality, describe what's happening. They define what's to come, what will happen. So as you continue to become more aware of the words and the thoughts that you're choosing, this is where the analogy of the seed comes. The ones that you start to choose consciously are the ones that you begin to water. And as you continue to water those seeds, they begin to sprout and eventually bloom. So us as responsible creators, conscious creators, are constantly choosing what we allow in our existence. And as we continue to refine our words and water those thoughts and words that we choose in our existence, the universe responds so beautifully. And then that ties in with the faith that I spoke about, understanding that even though you're doing this work and you might not see it initially, understanding and having the faith that it is cultivating without you having to see it. And to just share an example of how this manifested in my own life, there was a point in time where after any spiritual growth I would come across, I would experience in my own life, I felt like life would just throw me the biggest tests. So it got to the point where I didn't want to do the spiritual work anymore. I'm like, well, what's the point if every time I'm going to advance spiritually, I'm just going to get my ass knocked down by life? Like, this isn't enjoyable. What's the point of learning if I'm just going to keep getting rocked every time I learn? And I really sat with it, and I started to like, okay, like what's going on here? Why? Why is it that every time I advance with spiritual lessons, I feel like life just throws everything at me? And I really started to get to the thoughts and the beliefs. Ultimately, it came from a belief that I created for myself. that reality responds to. It's like, okay, this is what you believe, this is what you're going to get. And that belief was that for every spiritual lesson that I get, it's going to be equivalent in how life tests me. And after like realizing this and understanding that, it's like, well, I don't really want to subscribe to that anymore. I want to continue to grow and advance spiritually. And I understand tests will come, but to the level that it was coming, and after every lesson, it's like, I don't really enjoy this. So I started to reframe. It's like, I will grow spiritually and will move through the lessons that life gives me with grace. And that little shift in thought and belief that I had to continue, that I chose to continue to water. See, even right now, I still choose to be conscious. I'm working through the have to terminology, which I'll share shortly. So little shifts like that really have just such a tremendous effect on reality around us. So I just want to share a little reframe practice. This is one of the more common ones that I witness, I see, and even with myself, I work through and probably will continue to work through. But a little shift from, instead of saying something is hard, say that it is a challenge that you have the opportunity to overcome. Right? So when you catch yourself saying, yeah, it's really hard, use that as a trigger, the word hard, and then do the reframe practice. This is a challenge. There's a challenge that I'll overcome. And just feel this shift in energy within your body, feel it internally, and play with that. The more you start to feel the differences, you get better at listening to your intuition, your body. When you say certain things, your body may react. You're like, ooh, hold on. Maybe that's not the correct way to express what I'm looking to achieve or experiencing in this moment. And now I'd like to speak a little bit more about why words teach the nervous system what's safe. And as I was sharing before, words aren't just descriptions, they're instructions. They're letting your nervous system know whether you're under pressure or in power. And to share an example that happened live on this video is a reframe that I'm currently working through. It's that of, I have to do this, right? There's at least personally, right, when I speak about this, there's a certain energy when I say I have to do this, like that, it's almost outside of my will. I'm being forced to do this, I have to. So I'm working on a reframe. There's two that I like to use. Like, instead of saying I have to do this, I get to do this, right? Again, just a little shift in energy. But I find what's been most empowering for me is I choose to do this. This is stepping fully into the inner master and autonomy and deciding for myself. I choose to do this. This is my choice, and this is what I will carry out. And another example I can share is I'm overwhelmed, right? When I'm overwhelmed, it's just like a weight of so many things are on me. And when I shifted to, I'm prioritizing to what matters most to me right now, it's the same situation, but viewed through a different lens and putting myself in a powerful state where I'm choosing. Like, okay, you know what doesn't matter, out. This is what's important right now, and let's just work here. So it allows me to step again back into my power as opposed to chaos. Your inner master doesn't speak from panic, pressure, or people-pleasing. They speak from grounded knowing, with words that align with thought, energy, and action. I'd like to share a little integration tip. Ask yourself, what would the highest version of myself say about this? And speak from that version. If your voice trembles at first, that's fine. It's a practice, right? It's learning how to embody those characteristics and really connect with that version of yourself that is confident, that is grounded, that is loving, whatever it is that you decide it to be, and start to speak from that version and be introspective with how they would perceive what you're moving through or how they would express that. And finally, I'd like to invite you to speak like it's already yours. Faith shows up in how you speak about something that hasn't yet arrived. And here are some words of power you can use to build up your faith. I'm in the process of becoming. It's already on its way. I'm creating now. If this resonated, please like and subscribe, and feel free to share with anyone who you feel might resonate with this as well. And for those of you who want to dive a little bit deeper, I have two options. You can either subscribe to my newsletter where I'll send out weekly tips about different things that are moving in life, different concepts, or those of you who want to hop on a 15-minute call and talk a little bit more about these deeper principles, the link is in the description as well. Until next time, family, hausch hausch.